10.
Do you have an extra copy?
I
John?
certainly do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
We need to announce that it is being recorded.
That's right. Thank you very much, Curtis. That's a good point.
Didn't you know that?
did
They
not.
always do that at select meetings and so on. So
This meeting is being recorded. So bear that in mind when making comments. First item is the approval of the agenda as written.
So moved.
So moved. Is there a
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any public comment?
I'd like to say,
This is your second.
That's all right.
I was getting my eye. I get a needle in my eye once a month. Macular degeneration.
Yes, I have friends with that.
Okay, sorry.
If we
Welcome
have-
to
yes.
me and you, and I'll see
thank
you
you.
Sunday.
And if we haven't formally welcomed you, welcome to our little committee.
We were both at the eye doctor on that day.
Yeah. Do you get the needle like I do?
No, I just get the glaucoma checkup.
So there's our public comment.
Here's our public comment. Needles and eyes,
For
and
the
nothing
meeting.
to
There we
do with
go.
sewing either. Approval of the minutes,
There's no public comment?
unless, well, I think Cheryl, we're going to talk under the Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
So,
on the
so we'll do that.
Okay.
The minutes, we're working on those, so I apologize we don't have those out. I'll check with Christy. I'll check with myself.
So why don't we
So,
just carry that
We'll
to the
just
next
carry.
meeting?
Yep. Next up will be election of officers.
John Busher.
I'd like to recommend we could just carry the current officers forward if there's no objection.
That's
Second.
fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Fine.
Motion made in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. I'll make sure Christy thanks us as well.
We didn't want you to wiggle off the hook.
Yeah,
That's
thank you. I
cool.
noticed that was done rather well. Parks and Rec Committee update and discussion. Cheryl, you joined us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take it
Well,
away.
I was here little over a year ago,
I think that's about right.
June, and you guys were going to take a look at the charter as it was written for Park and Rec Commission. And to add to that, I'm not sure if we have a Park and Rec Department charter or Park and Recreation charter. So
Right.
I know we have a Park and Rec Commission's charter, and that charter states that they're responsible for Children's Beach, cleaning up of Nantucket Beach, and responsible for Jetties Beach. And I feel like since 1960 something, when this charter was written, a lot has changed in Nantucket and our parks. I feel like Park and Rec Commission needs to encompass all of our parks. The other thing is, since I left the end of June of 2018, there has not been one Park and Rec Commission meeting. And there's 3 town employees that are on Park and Rec Commission. So is that diversity in our community? So I don't know. Those are just some things.
Is there a commission? Who's on the commission? I mean, 3 town employees, and are there 3 or 4?
Jack Gardner
Yeah.
and Diane Flaherty,
And Jerry Adams.
Jerry Adams,
Who's
and Amy Baxter.
who's the chair?
I don't think they ever elected a chair after I left. They have not had a meeting.
I see. So they haven't met in
have.
well over a year.
Right.
Okay.
And just to remind us, and Cheryl, help me if I'm right, the charter is one that came down from the state.
Correct.
Correct. So it seems to me that has an extra weight, just like the Historic District Commission charter comes from the state. And that's an important issue in discussing
However,
what we're doing here.
Right, and however, it is important to remember in that the town administrator is the sole person who appoints and unappoints people to that commission. So it is not a select board, it is purely appointed by the town administrator.
Town manager.
Well,
Well, the town manager,
manager
but
in
just
this-
Campbell, and that's correct, but that was not always the case. The Board of Selectmen, I think you'll find, agreed to delegate that authority maybe 7 years ago to the town manager. Before that, the appointments to the Park and Rec Commission were made by the board, as many other boards and
Right,
commissions are.
But so that would be at the same time frame that the Park and Rec Department was consolidated under the DPW.
In 2012.
Well, 7 years ago.
Yeah, I'd say they were all
Which
sort of
is-
related.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, is it's sort of related that that commission really has been somewhat defunct since then.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair to say. I'm not sure that anybody necessarily took ownership of it. I'm not sure anyone
No,
knew
I'm not
to took
saying that
ownership.
there's
Yeah.
like, I'm
Yep.
just
No.
in the timeline of
Mhm.
events, it would seem that, because it is probably a lot more work than was imagined under the consolidation, because it really added a lot of maintenance and management to the DPW.
Well, the Park and Rec Department is in 5 entities at the moment. It's in the community school, it's in the DPW, it's in the visitor services, it's in the police department for licensing of activities in the parks, and the Park and Rec Commission. And it's not cohesive. It's to run a department like that, to me, is like nobody really communicates, and I think our parks could be so much better. I mean,
So is this? I feel like this is fairly timely discussion in that I try to read the paper as best I can each week, but I believe there was articles about sort of the condition of the parks in the paper this week, and that perhaps I read too much into it, but the town trying to take ownership.
Well, the town also has hired a consultant, and they've developed a whole
Mhm.
planning
Right.
process and went through several open public meetings and
yeah,
so forth.
exactly.
And so I think that's helpful. So a discussion of how the town is structured to implement such a plan would seem to me would be timely for our town government study committee, if we think it's appropriate to reconsider that and re-empower the Park and Rec Commission. If we thought that was an important thing, we could comment on that.
Well, it sounds to me, with the disjointed nature of the commission, that it would warrant us pushing a little bit, and I'm astonished that it's split in 5 parts.
Well, that's the department, not the commission. The department is split between all these different entities, but the commission that's the advisory board to the Board of Selectmen. They were meeting regularly until, and I feel like there was a lot of progress being made. We actually got that Tom Nevers, group together, organized to fight for, bring awareness in our community about the condition of our parks.
But it sounds like the commission, not all of what you would consider to be the parks fall under the commission
Well, and
currently.
that's it. And I
Yeah.
feel like taking a look how the charter was written, and maybe, I don't know how you go about getting a charter changed or to make it a better, it hasn't been redone in forever. And I feel like it should encompass all of our town parks under the commission.
My guess would be, when you go back and find the time when it was adopted, the commission, the charter, those were the 3 main
Put 'em
parks.
parks.
Yeah,
So,
right.
so it just didn't grow formally the way we grew sort of organically with different parks.
I know Tom Nevers at one time, the Board of Selectmen, I mean, if you went back through so many minutes, they did give permission for Park and Rec Commission to be under their purview, but to oversee Tom Nevers. But they were supposed to reinstate that every 5 years and so a long time went by and nothing has been done.
So another indicia of how things were previously, I believe technically the Park and Rec Commission was the town entity that provided the lease to the Jetty's concession, for example. And I'm not sure that's the case anymore, but that's what was done previously.
The commission, I think we reviewed the contract and the applicants.
Yep.
Interesting.
It sounds to me like something that ought to be addressed directly. I hear what you're saying in the Tom Neversfield article in the paper and all the rest, so I certainly think we should be looking at reviewing the commission and including that as part of our study.
Perhaps somewhat like the HTC legislation.
Hopefully it's not quite as complex.
Fingers crossed, but same general idea.
It
Yeah.
also seems like at a deeper level, having to do with the government study, this seems to be a very large piece that is functioning very poorly under its current manifestation, and that's part of the government oversight or governance oversight of the town, right? So to look at it sort of from that angle as well, because I'm obviously empathetic here with the Park and Rec department, having worked with the fair and things, and I'm a bit bothered, and I probably maybe I shouldn't be, but I'm a bit bothered by the number of members that are currently making up the commission that are all town employees, and that there have been no meetings since the only non-employee, didn't re-up for their term. And so I'm a little bothered sort of just structurally by that.
But it's also a general question. The composition of committees, whether town employees are appropriate, when you're looking for generally citizen volunteer participation on boards and commissions. And to the extent that they become overweighted with town employees, it develops a different character to the commission. So that's just something we ought to think about.
As a town employee, I think they're valuable on commission, such as
I
this.
think you Tucker, I think you
It shouldn't be overweighted.
I completely understand.
Well, let me say, they're valuable on commissions. I think another approach often is that town employees provide staff support and input and are free to influence the commissions in their professional capacity when they serve on a commission. So I noted when the Coastal Resiliency Advisory Committee had their first meeting, one of the members, there may be others as well, is a town employee, and that person consciously said at the start of the meeting that she was here in her capacity as a citizen. Now, to the extent you can separate her citizen from her salary, that's good to at least say that. But usually people's major obligation goes to the person who provides their welfare first. And it's hard. I'm just sharing. I think it's difficult to truly.
Well, I'm going to disagree. I'm going to disagree. Like I think that town employees, surprise, surprise, are also citizens in the community, and I think we're fortunate to have some folks who can add value just as much as any other citizen to these types of discussions. They just happen to be town employees. So I do think conflicts of interest always on any commission, and those arise for private citizens as well as town employees, are important to be cognizant of. But anyway, I think we're getting a little off topic.
Think my comment was based on having one
right
person instead.
No, yeah.
And if it were an active commission and you could follow along with their minutes and their meetings, or having regular meetings, you could see the production, you could see what was going on, but all we have exactly zero.
Yeah, that's
So
very much
that-
yeah.
I'm not saying that town employees aren't citizens or are a negative influence.
No,
I'm
no.
just saying that it seems to have bogged this.
No, the
And
discussion
perhaps
kind of went a
other-
little
yeah.
bit different direction there, and I wanted to be on the record.
So, yeah, I just didn't
Yeah.
want you to feel like I
No.
was,
I totally understand. I agree. I mean, the committee hasn't met, it sounds like, in over a year, which is
Maybe one
not.
of the town employees ought to suggest that the commission meet. if it's loaded with all
Right.
town employees, why not me?
I asked at one point, and one of them just said, well, they'll call me when they want me. But I'm
Who's-
like, who? Because
Yeah,
there's no
who's
chair.
they?
Right.
Who's the they who's gonna call it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Amorphous town
Right.
employees, but none of them are going to call for the meeting? Is there a chair?
There's
There
not a
is
chair of the
Seemingly
committee.
not.
No, because
Well, I think a citizen member could also call for a meeting. I mean,
Yeah.
He could easily stop by and the town administration and say, I would respectfully request that you help us schedule an initial meeting. And so
Town
that's,
employee
they're,
as a citizen.
well, or the
Or-
citizen
yeah.
members of the commission.
There
There
are-
are citizen members of the
No.
commission.
That's what they said.
Jack, well, there's Jack Gardner
Jack Gardner.
and Diane Flaherty.
Right, so they could ask for it to happen as well,
Mhm,
as opposed to waiting for it to happen.
Right.
mhm.
There's a difference.
Have you ever reached out to either of them and suggested that they might call a meeting?
No, but I could. I don't know, is Jack, I haven't seen Jack in a while, is he on
We
our
I
said
saw
some
him coming
traffic
out of the
safety.
hospital the other day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not-
he's around.
okay,
He's not strong.
right.
Well, so, I mean, it's clear there's some issues, like,
Mhm.
you know, that things aren't happening, that there isn't, there aren't regular meetings. It seems to be broken up responsibility for certain aspects. My question was, and I apologize, I don't know if you provided this when you originally came to talk to us about this, but are there, do you have like sort of specific written recommendations that we might consider incorporating into what we're,
Our recommendations.
what's that?
Our
In,
recommendations.
yeah, I mean, like,
yeah.
you know, we're not experts. I'm not an expert in park and rec,
No.
Me
but
neither.
so I, you know, if there was
But-
something specific that would certainly aid us in trying to
Okay.
help address the
I'd be
issue.
happy to
like
I-
uniformed oversight or
Mhm. I'd be
whatever
happy-
it may be.
I'd be
Well,
happy
may
to
I
organize
offer
some,
an observation. I sit with the cemetery commission,
mhm,
and they meet monthly. They meet actually at the DPW office, and Alan Reinhardt is there, and Fran Cartonia is there, and Rob McNeil's there. But they meet monthly and they talk about things. And that seems to me to be a model that would make some sense to me for Park and Rec. And hell, if they have an opening, I'll apply.
There you go.
Then
So-
I can rattle a
Then you
cake.
can call a meeting.
So
Yeah.
park,
Weren't there regular meetings?
there was regular meetings in Park and Rec Commission until I left, June of 2018. But Park and Rec Department, I don't think they ever have meetings, ever, you know, with all the different entities that are involved.
But
And that's
I-
one of the problems.
Well, it is, but I think someone on the town side would probably say, and we should hear from them on this, that some of those activities are different enough so that they can slot differently in the town and maybe be managed efficiently. I'm not making a case, but presumably that kind of thought went into the distribution. At the time, of course, cost containment was critical to the town,
Mhm,
and it was important, and Park and Rec was one of those units, among others,
mhm.
that had to modify and change. So it wasn't done without some thought.
But the reason it was modified and changed at the time was because of the crash
Mhm.
in the economy.
Yep.
And now things are different, and, you know, our community's growing, our parks are growing, that people, there's, you know, it makes for a healthier community to have a park department that's run properly. And if we could, you know, it's not so bad that, like, Robin Deal's group, the DPW, could do the maintenance on the parks, but there should still be somebody that's overseeing to making sure
It's
that
a-
their group does the work that needs to be done in our parks.
Because even to your point, which I agree with, the bottom line is it's not working whatever the original intention was. The idea that they could be divided into 5 or 6 or however, 3, however many
yeah.
different things. So I think for our group, the idea is that whatever the intent, which we will assume was good and proper intent, it does not seem to be effective at this time. And that meeting like you're speaking of or maybe Curtis is, where these different departments start to talk to each other about, you know, because if visitor services has a program for one of the parks, it's going to happen in one of the parks, you would think that you would want to coordinate the maintenance of that park with that event, right? And so it might.
And then you
I
have
think just
scheduling.
getting one person to then go to all these different departments to be then, you know, trying to corral everyone, because I think everyone here is really busy and it's really hard to find the time to do the one more meeting moment, you know?
Well, you know, first, I think first it'd be really good to look at the charter, how it's written for Park and Rec Commission, and see how the town might want to reconsider, or at least bring it into this point in time in history to update it. And I'm not sure how you update a charter.
Town meeting.
Where do
Town
we get a
meeting.
copy of the Park and Rec charter?
It's in the town code.
I can,
online.
you know what,
I sent
if you
a
look at
copy
your
once. I'll
agenda,
send it- I'll be happy to send it around. I have it on
I'd
my
love to
machine.
read it,
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would
because
be
I'm
great.
getting hot on Park and Rec.
yeah,
Because I have time to raise hell.
It's not very
Excellent.
long, it's very succinct.
okay, so
be
are
happy
you
to.
talking about is there a charter for Park and Rec Department and
Well,
one for the
no,
commission,
No,
or
I'm
it's
just talking about the commission.
Just
on the commission?
Yeah, we'd be happy to.
Okay.
And if you want to come back to us with some suggestions that you may have
Okay,
on streamlining or just recommendations,
Okay.
we'd be absolutely receptive.
okay, I think starting by looking at that and making sure that our commission is, you know, actually being active in our community.
I think that's a great idea.
Either that or get new people,
Right.
you know, that have an
Sweep
interest.
the clean.
Yeah.
Curtis is ready.
I'm ready, I'm
Yeah,
hot.
that's it.
I'm hot. I have nothing to do except keep my chickens going. I'll give you a good example, not a good example. We have a funeral at the historic colored cemetery on Sunday. I'm doing it as from St. Paul's. I went over to check it out. Grass wasn't cut, 2 fences were knocked down, and since it's a town cemetery, they have to dig the hole, because at Prospect Hill, Jeff Morash and St. Mary's, Jeff does.
Interesting.
But the person whose husband died, a very close friend of mine from the University of Pennsylvania, came into town 2 days ago and was appalled. So I have been pushing, and Rob has said that they're going to fix a fence and cut the grass. When I leave here, the first place
Sure.
I'm going, because I got 24 hours to get ready to put this, the ashes in the ground.
And you know what, Rob he's doing a great job.
He is fantastic.
Yeah, we love him.
I'm a big fan, and you know, and I think he's doing great, but he can't do it all. But the fact that the cemetery commission got Old and New North fixed up and did some good stuff, I think, and I'll tell you, when they changed the access, you cannot get in there. There used to be a parking lot off Vesper Lane across from Holgate's. They took it away. I tried to find it. They said park at the hospital where there's a chain link fence. You can't, there's no gate through it. So we have room for 2 vehicles down the rutted dirt road. And I've
Coming in the backside?
coming in the new sign that
Yep.
goes right, meanders around, it's rutted, and I've told them to get Cranberry Transportation and take a van in, don't try to,
Yeah.
and these are older folks, it's a half mile, it's
Ah.
disconcerting. But it's a good model through what you're talking about, and I've been hammering for about 10 days, so from here I go to the cemetery. Hopefully I get out.
Right,
Yeah.
thank you very
All right,
much.
thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Cheryl.
All right, let's
Thank
stay
you.
on this.
All right, next up, discussion of Novak report. Everyone have a chance to wade through?
Well, I read one part of it that bothered me. I applied for the parking commission that was established, and I have multitudes of ideas on how we could establish a parking system. The select board chose not to appoint that committee. And
Really?
the Novak report specifically said, not a priority now. And that's what I was reading in the Novak report. It's a damn big report, and it took a lot of paper. But that particular thing bothered me a lot. And now, as of this week, again, we have till next year to do to fix parking. But there's so many ways to monitor parking. Look at the airport. You go out there, and if you're going to park long term, there's somebody who is checking to see that you paid your slot.
Yep.
In Boston, you can go on your phone and find a spot. There are lots of ways to approach it, and they're putting the blinder up, and yet they're saying by next year we have to have a system. So that's my take on the Novak report. I happen to focus on it.
I'm a little surprised about the town electing not to go ahead with any type of parking commission, because I could be mistaken, but I thought during one of our interviews over the last year and a half, in addition to a licensing committee and a sewer committee, I thought parking was the next suggestion, sort of third on the list of
it
interest.
Irritates me that they chose. I went in to see Erica. I put in the form. I did all the rest, and she said, "Oh, you're all set." And then you had the interviews, and they made the appointments. They never even called for interviews for parking.
Really?
I was told not to bother to go to the meeting. So who decided to pass over a commission that's in the statutory list of things? And how many others are vacant that they don't choose to address?
Just a small question. Is this at town meeting, we gave authority to the board to establish a parking
district commission.
Right, and this is the parking district
And
commission.
that's
I just want to be sure that's the one you're
That's
talking about.
it was posted on the list of apply.
That might be different from a parking commission.
Well, it's a parking district commission,
Okay, thank you.
and it was posted by the select board to apply, and I applied, and then they were told, well, they really didn't tell me anything. They just said, well, we're not appointing.
Someone might remember, I think a parking district, again, has charter provisions and we should double check. We can go back to the town bylaw that gave them the authority. Is that a district that comes down from the state? Because it does, I believe, once you establish it, have certain powers, and it may be, Tucker, you may know, that the parking district commission, once it's established, for example, has the power separate from the selectmen, and I'm not sure this, to set fees.
I don't know the answer.
And how you pay for parking, all that stuff. So it's
yeah.
an important issue to make sure we all understand the governance
Sure.
of how that commission will operate,
Right.
separate or in conjunction with the select
Well,
board.
along those lines, I did ask for a fee schedule of parking tickets.
Mhm.
Nobody had it. You know how they gave it to me? They Xeroxed the back of a ticket, because all the checkpoints are on the back of the ticket. Nobody had anything to give me. And I'll tell you one thing, the best bargain in town is park all day for $20 or $25. If you're working downtown, the realtors are still doing it. They're all over Main Street. And I think 1 hour zones with all those CSOs walking around, instead of 3 of them standing down at the damn High Line talking to each other, would be helpful, because there are ways to check. I mean, they chalk them and then everyone rolls their car or they move them. But that's where the ability to monitor.
License plates.
Well, you can have readers there. You just can go scan, you get times, you scan them again, and if you moved at one slot but you're still on Main Street, doesn't cut it for me. There are a lot of ways to deal with this. I was chief of police at the University of Pennsylvania for a year. And I was in charge of the dogs Never mind. But, I mean, I'm frustrated.
Sure.
I mean, the Park and Rec Commission is something that's energizing me today because I'm disappointed in that. But the parking, I don't think we really paid attention to. I don't think we want to address it seriously. And,
So it would seem to me, John, it'd be helpful to have maybe an agenda item that says, here are if you go to all the charters that exist in the town, and
That's a
we
damn
get them in
good
front
idea.
of us.
Yeah.
They're easy to read, and that's in addition to the town charter.
Yes,
which
of
is
course.
the whole point. But
Of
there are
course.
these other sort of legal issues, and
Park and Rec, HTC,
yeah.
and who knows exactly what they're going to do to
And we
the park.
may or may not have an
Something to do, or
interest in
should
them
Rick-
all, but let's know what
Ricky,
they are.
Can you use your expertise to pull them up and save this guy a little bit of time?
Yeah, no,
We
that's
can work in
the
conjunction.
intent. I will
Yeah.
do that.
Great.
That would be kind.
Yeah.
So
Very.
what exactly did the Novak report say about that, before they said they weren't gonna do anything, or it wasn't a priority, what did they say before that?
I'm trying to remember what, it was an item that they reviewed. I mean, the Novak report was a review of town operations. And essentially it sort of said, well, you need to pay attention to parking. And then it said, but that's not a priority right now, so you don't need to do anything right now.
So just to be clear, and Tucker, again, you're in the department, so or quasi. As I recall, the
He's a quasi.
report we were emailed by John was about the staffing, right? And there's another operational report which is separate. So there are two different Novak reports.
No,
So we all ought to be clear about which one or ones we're talking about, because they both have information in it.
well, you sent us one that was 228 pages.
And quite right.
Where's the other one? What is it?
Well, the board, two or 3 months ago, had a presentation by the Novak Group about the operational review report.
That's what I think we got.
You got-
We got the
We got the one that was
employee.
publicly posted on the town website. There is another one that is, if it is existing, it's not in the public.
Well,
It's
no,
a
it
situation.
is. It's a public document, and I have a copy of it, but it's too big to email. We'll figure out how to get it out, or we can ask the town to post it. But it was included, in this case, it's 180 pages, in the package presented to the Board of Selectmen, and I think to the Planning Board and the NP and EDC. So it's out there. We just got to make it available.
And there's a lot of pushback on various aspects of it.
Yeah.
So
there's
it's
no-
not sacrosanct, it's not.
So there are two
We're not
parts,
supposed to go to
operations,
town.
and what's the other?
I think the cover
Well, we should
page of
still
the
be
one we
knowledgeable.
got said staffing review.
I think it's the staffing one.
And there's another one called, it's an operational review.
So we'll figure out how to get a copy of the operational one
Well,
and
I
send
mean,
it
we can
send it
go to
along.
the town and run it through their
It should
copying
be up on the
system.
website.
But I think the best thing would be to get it posted, make sure it's up on the website.
Mhm.
Because otherwise you can go to the Board of Selectmen's packet,
Yeah.
which they post, the whole packet.
There should be we should be able
It should be
an
easier,
easier way to
'cause
get
I
it. Yeah, so we
went
don't have to
through
wade through the other
several
stuff. Sure.
renditions of
Okay.
places where it should be, and
Okay. Well, that will be a good one to get as
I don't
well.
actually have to print 400 pages.
Can't
off my
imagine why.
computer if we can go get a copy that is available through the town.
That'd be nice.
So make them pay for it.
That would be nice. Sure.
We don't have a budget.
Like the town has a budget, they're paying for our ad.
That's right.
Yep.
That's
right.
Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
Yeah, I think the housing trust funds are good.
Is gonna love to pay for ours.
Exactly.
A lot of money.
Goodness. Okay. Will you please identify yourself for the meeting? And we are being recorded, so come on
Phil,
over.
come on up and get a mic so we can all hear you.
Come on down.
And the folks watching can hear
Yeah,
you.
Phil, right over here.
Yes.
Yeah.
CCTV.
Come on down here to the mic.
Curtis, he can use that one.
Oh, okay, here, you
Here,
can sit right there.
Take there. You got it.
But
It's green. All right, tell them who you are.
I'm Phil Gallagher. This is not directly cogent to what you've been talking about, but it's important when you're talking about parking. I have maintained privately with most of the selectmen for quite a while that you must, I'm picking up on Matt Fee's comments about you've got to worry about unintended consequences. You've got, and it always strikes me as absolutely correct. I strongly feel you must not talk about parking without simultaneously talking about the number of cars, the actual trend, having cars moving them up. If you make it possible to have 1,000 or 1,200 more cars every day parking downtown, guess what? They have to go and come back. And so the parking markedly affects, what's the word I'm looking for?
Traffic.
Traffic. And you have to discuss, you must not discuss parking in a vacuum, not directly connected with what it's going to do to parking, to transportation.
The state has an awful lot to say about, we cannot restrict cars, as I understand it, because it's Milestone Road, state road. That means the state has authority over.
No, but if you make it possible to have another 1,000 cars a day, all summer long, they're going to be on the road every day.
How are we making it possible to have another 1,000 cars?
Well, that's what the selectmen keep talking about. They keep wanting to find it. They want to move for parking. They want to move the cars in and out of downtown. And they're always talking about having. We've got to move the cars in and out, so we'll have at least another 1,000 cars being able to park downtown. But to park downtown, you've got to get downtown.
Quite right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure they're talking, Phil, just to be clear. Yeah, if there, let's take an example. Let's say there are 1,500 parking places downtown. I don't think the selectmen are talking about adding another 1,200 parking places.
No.
I think all they're talking about is trying to make, not only, but anyway, making the turnover quicker.
Exactly.
And using money to force turnover.
Exactly.
That's his point.
But if they have that turnover, those cars have.
I just mean that's different from adding
It
parking
never-
spaces.
No,
They did this before, I think before even Rick was on there. Well, I think Diane Coons may have been on there at the time. They decided to shorten the amount of time people can park, charge more money. It did not work. What it did is it drove people out of downtown.
Yeah.
So that does not work.
yeah,
So
and
the way they have it right now, I can usually find a parking space, which I'm very surprised, but I can usually find a parking space downtown.
So can I.
Because I go to the post office.
so can I.
So things are moving along on their own. The only time it gets bad and people start moaning and groaning again is when it's raining and everybody is downtown. But that's been the way it was since I was a kid downtown. When it rained,
No, I agree.
we
Everyone
walked
everyone
downtown
shows up.
then,
Yeah.
'cause you
I
just could
found
not
parking
drive.
right at the post office
Yeah.
this morning. When I have the problem, believe it or not, is at night. We went down to try to get a quick bite, and I went around the block 3 or 4 times. I've never done that before, but I think you're right. I see parking spaces in town these days, but I still see the $25 all-day parkers from those people who work downtown.
Those are the ones that they need to go after, which is obviously
Damn
the
right,
article last week.
and that's where this parking
Which they-
commission should
yeah.
pay
They're
attention
not going to do that.
to moving them.
You know,
But
it's-
most of the employees downtown don't park downtown anymore. You see how, I went by the Silver Street lot where the show goes downtown. That Silver Street lot is packed.
Oh yeah.
All you need is
has
more
been
of
for
that.
years.
Yep. Sure.
You need more.
Absolutely.
About the elementary and high school where they don't have anyone parking
I know.
all summer, and it's an easy shuttle. I mean,
It's-
if you just had one shuttle going back and forth,
Yeah.
you'd have 3 parking lots with that capacity
agree
that you're
completely,
speaking of.
and
And
it's-
every 15 or 20 minutes, you'd just be running, and you wouldn't be trying to include it with going to the beach.
Oh, yeah.
blah,
That's the
blah, blah.
problem.
So I'm just cognizant of, like, we need to talk about our meeting, our public hearing next Wednesday. And so and we're not going to solve the parking issue here right now.
Not
but
today.
I think the point is there's a commission that was established that wasn't filled. I mean, that's sort of something under our purview, if you will.
Well, and I think you're talking
Park-
about other commissions.
Parking District Commission.
I thought they had everything.
I applied and I was told, but not to bother. They never appointed. They passed it over at the select
So
board.
we're gonna do a little investigation on that one.
Because they were supposed to fill it.
I know.
Quite right.
Did they advertise for it?
I put my paper in. Erica said, "You're all set, Curtis." I went to the meeting because it was the night
Yeah.
they appointed the health department. Malcolm McNabb was there. Not on the agenda.
So we're gonna
All right,
we're gonna
I-
do some
I
investigation.
think
Yes.
Tucker has a
Yes.
good point that we need to talk a little bit
Yes.
about.
So moving on. Thank you, Phil. Much appreciated. So I would say that for our next one of our next meetings that we get a copy of the Novak operational report, and we'll circulate that as well, or get
Is it
Get the-
possible
get the
to
ta-
divide it
Get
into
'em both.
sections where
Or-
we take it as sort of a section at a time?
or get the town to print them out and we can pick them up.
The operational report has an executive summary up
Yeah.
front, so we can
For our
read that.
discussion,
Yeah.
we can create an agenda, but there are two reports. I'd like a copy of each one.
You
I'll
got
tell
it.
you which one I have. I'd like to get the other one.
Okay. All right.
I'm not printing them out.
Yeah.
No, that's
No.
our whole point.
Right.
The town can print them.
All right. So moving on to the discussion of materials for the public hearings on Wednesday.
Well, I first think that what we gave out at town meeting should be reprinted
Mm-hmm.
and be available. Because I think it gave a concise overview, and the people who may be coming to the public hearings, the non-residents, it would be useful to them.
Yep.
So that
Did
to me is,
Did anybody ever get a hold of the area, like my Surfside, Grant Point, Tom Never Association, any of the associations, Connecticut? And kept hammering
Yeah.
that for like
Yeah,
the last month?
I agreed to make sure that Charlie Stott sends it out to the Civic League presidents, but I wanted to get a copy of our ad, so he has something to send with it, so.
That doesn't say Affordable Housing
I
Trust
will
Fund.
email you. I've asked. There was a mistaken ad with the trust in there, but I've asked the INA to send us a
Yeah.
corrected one that we could email.
That would be
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah,
If you send it to me,
Yeah.
I'll get it to
Yeah.
Charlie and
Yeah.
we'll get
Because I
that.
know
so you're
all
just
the
gonna
Yep.
take
I know
this
we're
line
meeting
out
like
and.
that Surfside
It'll just
meeting
be
and-
without that and bolder.
Because it does say town government study committee.
It does
Exactly,
say,
exactly,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So just take that line out, to save money on the ad.
There you go. No, I figured
But
that,
no,
that one's on the
I've
INM.
asked them because we're running it again for the next one.
Yeah.
To correct it
Right.
and kind of beef up the.
The town government.
Yeah, but if I don't get it today, we'll just blank it out and send it.
That's
Yeah,
good
yeah,
enough for
yeah,
this
exactly.
purpose.
Okay.
That'd be
What we
great,
may
Tucker,
wanna
thank you.
have
Yeah.
there, is, you can do double-sided, is copies of
Mm.
the town charter and the county charter. County charter's like 4 pages long. Double-sided them, so people
Will
have.
the people going to that meeting find value in having copies of the charter or in value in hearing what we're doing and asking for
They have
input?
no clue what the charter means. I mean, I was on the original charter commission, and we drafted both of them. But people haven't really looked at them, and that's really where the nuts and bolts of what we need to do as far as, do we need to change the charter?
So-
Is this what we went back to town council for?
Yeah.
So then
we haven't heard
my
from
question,
Ron. I know.
Linda, then, for this would be, would you be thinking about presenting, going over the charter then with people that are there versus just handing it out, or?
If we hand it out, they can read it and then come to the next meeting, or sort of just. read it
Okay, well, I'm just
themselves.
trying to figure
Yeah.
out how we
They're
can
not familiar
incorporate
with
it
at all,
versus just another piece of paper that people have.
Yeah.
That's what our real task, that's what sets up the fact that we have to meet, that's what our task is based on, that's what we have to change stuff in the charter if necessary.
Right. It is
So we need to
charter.
know what the charter
centric.
means. The county is one thing, but
The town is something else.
town is the major driving force. The county's pretty well specified.
So
So
go ahead. Go ahead, Tucker.
So, I think at the last session when we started to talk about having the timing for the hearings, Rick and Curtis and I think Linda, you all couldn't be at that last session. But, so I just what we started to talk about and obviously want to like finalize today is like what are we going to do with this hour and a half? And so I think having the document we prepared for town meeting makes perfect sense. Having copies of the charter, both town and county would make perfect sense. I don't know if we were necessarily thinking about trying to walk people through the charter in that setting. I think people who are probably are coming because they have a concern of one nature or another. One idea we talked about, which we wanted to discuss today, was the idea of, a big topic obviously we're taking up is, like, does our current form of town government work? Do people, town meeting, et cetera, how do people feel about that, essentially? And so I mentioned at the last meeting, the Community Foundation every fall does a session with different community organizations and yeah, but like the police chief and representatives from all kinds of different organizations and sort of a wide range of the island community. And the purpose of it is to try to identify the pressing issues before the island is that the Community Foundation may or may not be able to help with. And we kind of put these all up on the wall, and we give people stickers, basically 3 stickers, and say, put a sticker where you think is a priority issue. And so we talked about the idea of maybe we have the different types of government with a little explanation at the top, and people can, use a sticker to indicate their thought. And we could even have something like, I don't know what the right form of town government is, but our current one works or isn't working. And just to try to assess from the attendees, some thoughts.
Are you thinking of something like that board?
Yeah.
Them?
So when they come in, maybe, and this is all completely open to discussion. Yeah, so I mean, we talked about the idea of when people coming in, maybe up at the back of the room, because we're in the community room, we can have one of us at the table there, like checking people in, handing out their stickers and say, we'll explain this in a minute. They sign in. And, and maybe we try to get a sense of like seasonal versus year round.
We can put that all on one sheet of paper.
Right, or you get a different color sticker if you're seasonal or year-round resident.
Whatever.
But then and then we'll have these all up already, but then we'll start the discussion at the front, and make whatever opening remarks and so forth, and then we'll explain, now we would like people to go around and, place a sticker, and then, we can carry on discussion from there, what have you. But it was just an idea of like trying to get some feedback from the group on the sort of the big question.
But we are going to take questions.
Oh, totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Explain how we're doing. 55 years.
Right. I mean, that would be part of it. That we sort of give our preamble of what we are tasked with, who we are, etc.
Because we're not the end. The buck
That's-
doesn't stop with us.
That's right.
The last government study group, we put all those warrant articles in where nothing passed, maybe one, is we want to avoid that.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to make sure that they understand that we are reviewing and advising, making recommendations, blah, blah, blah.
That will
We
go
are
to
not
town
the
meeting.
end all of end alls where we're going to
That's-
solve everybody's problem.
That's right.
We are
No, but I
taking
think-
the information, you were involved the last time, taking the information in, because the last time was like, they're gonna solve everything, they put all these warrant articles in, they all got shot down, summarily shot down. We want to avoid that whole
For
thing.
many reasons.
The
Yep.
last time, because there was such a bad taste in a lot of our mouths about that last group, because there's a lot of personal vindictiveness involved, there's a lot of crap involved. We wanna make sure that we're focused,
Mhm.
and people understand what we can and cannot do here, and what our role is.
But we're only recommending anyway. It all
Yeah.
goes to
That's
town
Well,
meeting.
Yeah.
But hold
that's
on.
the point.
It seemed to me that this is about information collection. This is not about predetermination of anything. There's no discussion of annual town meeting issues coming up. It sounded sort of like the beginning of a conversation with the community and interested community members about what they think based on what we have here, you know. Some people are gonna wanna just talk, at least that's what I've noticed at a lot of public hearings. People wanna get up and, they wanna say something, you know, and then they
Certainly
can
do.
calm down, and then they can
Yep.
go around and, do you see what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But,
Yeah.
and so, I mean, I get your point, Linda, I'm just saying that I think in this one, we're not really setting up expectations so much as trying to collect what people are feeling about the current, and you're gonna get people that are mad about A, B, or C, but collectively, how does that filter out into a, you know, is it a one-off with one or two people feeling that, or is there, you know, a group that one could see as, you know, identifying an issue that could be something that more people are interested in.
Well, that's why I think the
addressing.
sticker, I mean, we don't have to do it. I just think it's a simple, like, visual representation.
Right.
It may,
Write a note and stick it, you know.
yeah, and then
Yeah,
there
here
could be
you say.
a few pages of just write anything, you know, write your concern here as well. Like, so
Right.
we can collect all this from the session, and it's
It's-
not just listening.
It's
Yeah.
also worth noting this isn't our only session. So,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
My first reaction is a little bit, this is our first public hearing, and we're looking for people to give us a lot of different thoughts and issues. And it might be better to think about, if we do the board thing with the stickers, to do it the second time, after we've had a chance for people just to input. Otherwise, we're sort of predetermining the issues that they want to sticker on, and that's kind of a bit of a leading, it can be a leading thing that we don't have to do the first time. We could take their input and say, these are the 10 important issues we heard, plus our own comments, and that might help us.
You mean like the August 14th
Yeah,
meeting?
right, yeah.
So we
That's
have
why I'm
two.
saying, give them the chart, copies of the charter, so they can start
Yeah.
digesting
They
that.
may not all come back.
Yeah,
but
that's the
anyway.
thing. I mean,
Well-
you may have some folks who aren't gonna
Well,
be
you're gonna
here.
have-
Well, we
It's
got
the
an
same
e-
thing in
We got an
the
email
first one.
address.
Yeah.
We
Some
get an
folks won't
email
make the
address,
first
they can
one.
email comments about the charter after they had a chance to review it, or we hear what they have to say at the meeting, and they can email us the comments. That's how the planning board did it.
I just think, because I don't think that everyone, like, people aren't gonna come, a handful of people might come to both meetings. And they're, you know, and I think that what I was thinking of was that the things on the wall were about, like, you know, this is a form of town government, this is a form of town government, this is a form of town government, sort of try to collect people's thoughts about that through where they place a sticker. We're not gonna be able to have, like, what do you think about parking, and what do you think about, you know, like,
Or the
all
Park and
these
Rec
other,
Commission.
Park and Rec Commissioner, all these other things, but we can collect, you know, you have an idea about those, please let us know about
Right.
it.
Yeah, you could either do though I don't think it was really effective at the Civic League thing where you would write your question on a piece of paper. A lot of people didn't seem to participate that way. But I sort of liked your idea with, you know, having some large, you know, I think obviously a school
Yeah.
educational thing, you know, where you sort of write down something.
Yeah.
People can write something down and someone may read it and go, me too, or me
Yeah.
three, or, you know.
And even
Because
if they,
a lot of times they want to emote or be expressive about things that may have nothing to do with what we're trying to do.
right,
But they feel better if they have an opportunity to have a way to get it out. And I think that's one of the things that we need to work on, is getting people to feel.
well, and we give the opportunity to just go to the mic and express it verbally, and we're giving them, like, you know, email us if you don't want to write it on the wall or speak in public, like,
And in an
yeah.
hour and a half, we could cover quite, you know, you could have all those things going on.
Right.
Yeah.
And this, I mean, if we get 50 people, like, to show up, I mean, that would be like
That'd be
a
huge.
home run,
That'd be
I
a huge
think.
win,
I
yeah.
know.
Should
But-
we get Terry Norton to come and transcribe? Because someone's got to collect all of this info.
That's a great idea.
We're getting taped, right?
Yeah, we will be getting taped. Yeah, that's not a
What day is that, what day is our first meeting?
Wednesday.
Wednesday, 4:30.
I'm just
Is
thinking
that
of,
if it's Concom, she can't come?
Well, it's 4:30, what
So
time?
I don't know, Concom
I don't
is
know.
every 2 weeks.
I mean, I
I
think
don't-
as
I
long
don't
as
know
it's
if that-
taped, she
Yeah,
could.
Well,
that's-
I'm just thinking that somebody's gotta collect all these comments
Yep.
as they're going on, and I'm sure not good enough to do that.
Well, I'm trying to
But
get
I'm not sure.
something.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if we all try to get,
But you can
No,
collect them from
something.
watching the tape too. You don't
Yeah.
have to do it as
Yeah.
you're watching.
Right, right, right.
yeah.
I take notes, I
Okay,
don't know.
I'm just thinking of
Years ago.
organizing.
No, I think you're right, because in the end, you know, if we have to put minutes together about the whole thing, you know, you wanna have.
Yeah.
You're gonna write the
Something
damn
somewhat
report. You
kinda
get to write it.
concise.
Okay.
I don't know.
Um,
But, okay, so to that point, and I just wanted to bring this up quickly and have it, maybe have it on an agenda in the future, because this wasn't on the agenda, but it fits in with what we're talking about. In this month, not this month, in March Planning, American Planning Association magazine, they had a section on inclusive public meetings. So I didn't use my home printer to print off the whole thing, but there are 6 tips for inclusive public meetings that I thought
Do you
might
have a
be
copy of that for
interesting.
each of us?
I didn't, but I have meant to get to the town building, but I figured out how to get it out of here onto here.
Steps.
Because I can only do 1 page at a time, mine doesn't double side, so. But anyway, so I just wanted to,
Well, I'd like to read it.
Present
Yeah,
this
yeah.
thing
Get it
and
before
just-
the meeting.
Well, I'm gonna get, now that I have this,
Yeah.
I can go to a copier that I
Go to
wouldn't
the
know how
town
to
and make them.
Yeah.
print it.
Yeah.
and just
Absolutely.
do
No
If-
double-sided
we got
copies.
paper in.
Or you
If-
can give
For
it to
people.
John and he can scan it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you,
I could do that for you. I could put it in a scanner and produce a PDF. They're
Yeah.
not double-sided,
That's good.
but you know.
That's cool, that's a good idea.
you want.
Scan it and send it. Give it to Rick.
Should I put all this information on it first? So
What-
it's not,
Whatever you want to do. I mean, I'm just
No, you don't.
saying it's easy enough.
You
It
don't?
just goes
No.
poof. and,
Right.
you know,
Don't worry about it.
exactly.
no one's gonna,
The town
get
has a
me on
zillion of them.
copying and not attributing.
Oh, jeez.
So that's awesome. That's going to be a great read, no doubt. So circling back to what we're actually going to do for Wednesday. So do we still want to have? So we're going to have copies of the town meeting materials. We're going to have copies of the charter, both town and county. We're going to make sure the town prints for us, double-sided everything. We're going to see if Terry Norton can join us. We'll see.
I'm not sure that's.
No, I.
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah, that's
If
fine.
we're
I
gonna-
would, I would
Yeah.
set
That's
that
fine.
aside.
I can hold off.
Yeah.
No
But
worries.
somebody's gonna have to collect all this
Correct.
stuff at some point.
So that brings us to the $64,000 question. Are we going to have the stickers and the boards at this meeting?
Yeah, I guess I'm not. I think also it's a lot of work, and maybe someone's going to do that, but we have to think about what goes on the board, so we all agree to the context of it and all that.
I'm more inclined to
I-
have
I'm-
available notes and a basket.
You know,
Throw 'em in the
sometimes if
basket
you.
and let us go through
I
them.
like the big piece of paper, and I'll tell you why. Because when I was doing the fair and I'd do the, best in show or whatever, going through every single piece of paper that was put in that box took so much time, whereas if I just had a sheet, with comments, you can at least,
Sometimes when you're running a meeting, I mean,
Consolidated.
it's hard for you or somebody
Yeah.
who's good at writers, so that's a great idea, I'll put it on the sheet. And it helps generate more discussion. At the end of the meeting, you got a sheet with 26 great comments that came out of the audience.
Who's gonna be up there
Well,
writing
someone
the
who
sheet?
knows how to spell, that's not me.
Yeah,
We're
so
not
who's
running
the
a
volunteer?
Well,
to-
I'm not sure we can do that, but I'm just saying it's a useful tool.
So
We're
I
not
was.
running a charrette, let's just get that straight. Charrettes is where we all go up and we do the thing on the paper, and do the thing on the paper, we're not. We don't even know what we're gonna be presented with for the very first time,
So maybe we just sit back and
and just see where,
you know,
where we go.
one problem with the public hearing, if you go to the FinCom one, is they all sit there
Mhm.
and they're like, oh. And I'm not complaining, I'm just saying there's a tendency to say, I'm not here to communicate back. I'm just listening to you, but you have to encourage them a little bit. You need to draw them out. I think that's part of our job, your
Yeah.
job or all of our
Well,
jobs.
that's what we say when we do the intro, this is what we
Yeah.
are, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, these are the things that we're listening to, we're looking for public feedback on various issues. whether it's town government, or whether it's administrative,
Yeah.
or whether it's Parks and Rec, or whether it's, you
Yep.
know, town meeting, whatever, and throw this stuff out there and have people come up and make comments, because it gives them an idea of focusing a little bit more, maybe.
Well, that's what I
Almost like to have
yeah.
roving mics instead of having people slide out of the row and go over to an inoperative mic.
But I think I personally think it's important to be doing something like what I talked about with the different forms of town government. Otherwise, the discussion afterwards can be like, well, there was a comment like about this, or there was a comment about that. I think if we have something visual, even though it probably isn't, again, if we get 50 people, it's not statistically significant, but at least like it gives us some sort of, it may, you know, we may be surprised by, you know, how it ends up. I mean, that happens, you know, what we do with the community foundation. But I think it gives us something more tangible than a comment. The comments are important, but it gives us more to do our work
And
with,
it's
in my
more
opinion.
interactive, which I think is
Yeah.
important,
I'll go
because
with
to your
that.
point,
Yeah.
the FinCom thing is that there's no interaction, and at a lot of these public hearings and public meetings, it's not a dialogue so much as a
One
your
way, yeah.
yeah, and you sort of have people, okay, maybe they look at you and maybe they don't, but like that's my whole thing with all these, is to really try and create a better option than the purely mechanical, paper-driven, people show up and wonder why they spent an hour there,
Right.
you know, because what you want is people to come out and talk positively about their experience
Help us do
at
our job.
this
Right,
meeting,
right.
and energize people to come to another meeting. If they walk out thinking, well, that was a joke, then you reduce the numbers that end up
Yeah.
coming to participate, if you see what
Of
I'm
course,
saying.
my
Tucker,
question
I
is,
think you need to focus on the poster boards, I think you need to representative, town meeting, no town meeting, town council, you know, town council, a mayor, you know, there's
Yeah.
like maybe 6 posters up there.
Right.
Not out, not Parks and Rec over here.
No.
No.
I'm not going to. Yeah.
Town meeting
Government.
or
And I-
representative
I
town
like-
meeting, and Curtis, can I finish please? And Curtis, you had that thing that you did after we went over to Falmouth,
Mhm.
where you had that really very concise, these are the forms of government.
That's what I was going to
I
take
think we
from.
need to take
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
And I think
Yeah.
we need to have copies of that, because
That's-
that was very, very concise. and
well,
they
isn't
go
that
on
what
and on
we
and on.
use for the
Yes.
town meeting?
Yeah.
That's what we'll have as that's one of the handouts that we have for
I
town
wanna make
meeting.
sure
So
that
we'll-
what you had on that is actually
Yep.
translated onto what we're giving out, because I
That's-
think it was a little bit more
Yep.
wordy when you had it than what we had at town meeting, because we had to keep it to one sheet. So I don't know if you cut and pasted a whole
we
lot
can-
of it. But
we
I
can-
think
we can
that's
make
really
sure, but
critical,
yes,
because
yes,
that's
yep.
where we wanna go on those posters,
Okay.
because we had that
Well-
great meeting over there.
I think we're saying the same thing about the handout,
Yeah.
and then if it's just and
My
about
question,
limiting
just,
everything.
we cannot do a mayoral form of government here. It's not an option for them.
We need to
Because
tell
we're
them
too small.
why.
Well, but at the initial meeting, I think
These
To-
are the
to-
4 forms of government.
Yeah.
because it really, again, it's about conversations, it's about people getting into conversations and not
Yeah.
feeling like they're being told, well, but you can't do that one. I mean, I
Right.
think that they'll
Yeah.
come to that same
Yeah, I hear you. Okay.
conclusion, but to,
Okay,
like
let's do all
Linda's
4.
saying, I think, and it helps to give the focus
Yes.
to the meeting so that we aren't
Okay.
everywhere.
Because I think a lot of it's going to be focused on non-voting taxpayers. Voting taxpayers, non-representation, about 80% of our budget is non-voting taxpayers. And the form of government and the dissemination of information that affects a lot of these, like all Grant Point, for instance, and all
Mhm.
Surfside South, there are various things that they're going to be concerned with on these area associations that are going to civic
And
that
unfortunately,
aren't really part of the general conversation.
the date of this is turnover for the July, August
Well, I
month.
mentioned that when we set it up, didn't I?
Well, we
That
only,
It was turnover day.
you weren't at the meeting, it was,
Yeah, but I emailed you about that.
I know, but-
Turnover day.
You have to
but,
be at
but
the
we,
meeting.
but we'd already made the
I
date.
know, and I
So-
said it was a bad day.
And that's part of the reason why we made two. I mean,
Yeah, we have
that's-
two.
That's the beauty of it all. So if we have problems with the first one, we can,
But all the Julys are gone.
Right.
July's are
Literally, there's,
They're like.
No, but that's why in the ad, we say you can email us. If you
Right.
can't attend, let us know
Right.
your
okay.
thoughts.
I think we're
Yeah.
making progress.
It is.
right?
Get in writing.
I'm not unhappy, I'm just trying to cover the bases.
No, yeah.
Well, it's summer, there isn't any time that's a good time. I mean, it's today, and where would we
Right.
all rather
Right.
be? So I mean,
Right.
you have to, the last meeting, there were only so many days left in
yeah,
July, and you have to
Yep.
post it, and so I mean,
room availability, etc.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're okay with just recapping here. So we're gonna reprint our ATM materials, which included our update of what we're doing, as well as the 4 forms of government. We're gonna have that double-sided so everybody gets to see. We're gonna do double-sided copies of the town and county charter, and we're going to have poster boards up, and I think the sticker system. Is that how we're gonna do this?
A red sticker and green sticker. Just
Exactly.
have a table
Yep.
underneath them, they can
Okay.
take them out
Who's
of the
getting
bag
the
and stick
stickers?
them up there.
Well, I say you and I can coordinate perhaps a trip to Office Products.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to put together and I can email it to everyone to take a look at beforehand, but
Yep.
the headings for the boards or whatever,
Good idea.
and I'll get the stickers. That's fine. So
Why don't we delegate him as the sticker man?
yeah,
There it is. So
I've got the sticker.
Okay.
I just want to
Expertise. Oh, go ahead.
As everybody who's been on here for a while knows, I'm hammer on this Parks and Rec issue. And I support everything. I had a conversation with Cheryl, the button
Good.
downstairs for 10 minutes. I support everything she said. I was involved with putting it in the charter. I was involved with getting it to state. I was involved with setting up the Parks and Rec 20 some odd years ago. Everybody is in favor of getting the Parks and Rec back and putting all 5 areas that are getting screwed up individually back in one place with a staff, with a director, with all the stuff that kept all those things going and upgraded that whole time until Kara took it over, and everything, as you know, has fallen apart. Scheduling's still a mess over there. It's a nightmare. We have so much recreation, we have so much tourism, we need to put it back. They need to be in control of those bathhouses, they need to be in control of everything they did before, and they did it beautifully. When Megan Ellsworth was our first director back in the day, and they were down to tennis courts in that office. We need it back. The commission needs to meet regularly, they're required to under the state, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think we need to take a very strong stand on that Parks and Rec coming back. It cannot come out of the charter because it's required by the state, but there's nothing there.
Right.
So I just wanna reiterate
Well, we
everything
were
that Cheryl
pretty
said.
strong on that one.
Yeah, I think
And the
we're
paper's
all.
in favor, that all of us out here that use the fields are in favor.
I think we're all on the same page on this one.
We gotta
Thankfully.
get really intense about this, because otherwise we're gonna have to go and put a warrant article in to fund it and staff it and everything else, and that becomes a problem, because where are the funds coming from,
Right.
et cetera. So I said, we're gonna start talking to FinCom and Brian Turbin
That's good.
now.
All right. Any other business?
Motion to adjourn.
Well, hold on. Date and time of next meeting will be Wednesday,
I
the
did have
31st.
to put this on the next agenda.
Okay. Well,
Is that
I would
other
my
business?
my
Does that
recommend
go under
my
other
recommendation would be that you're talking for next agenda. You're talking about the 6 items of planning, or what are you?
Yeah,
Getting them
just-
out this week, aren't we?
just
Yeah.
to take a look at it, not for the meeting, not for the public thing, but
For the next one, right.
Whatever the
Yes.
monthly thing
Yep.
is.
Okay. So I imagine what we will do, or my intention is that on the 31st, we will coordinate when our next
So I
meeting
think
is, not being August
So we
14th.
don't have
So
another one of our meetings, we're just going straight to
We're-
the public hearing.
we're just going straight to the public hearing, which will be next Wednesday. Then I assume we'll have another one of our meetings. And
Between that and the 14th.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
what
Ding, ding,
happened
ding.
and what
Exactly.
can we do to improve?
We did, yeah,
Exactly.
we had, and we booked a time for that. We did after the last meeting.
there's, I'll have to look through my old notes. We may have.
I know we
gotta
booked.
look.
I know we booked the room, and I can't recall immediately offhand. But I think it was like the.
Will.
I think it was like we've been meeting on Mondays. I think it was the 12th, maybe.
That sounds.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another meeting, I know that.
That was good planning.
Well
Because
done.
it's
Well,
right.
see, look at that.
No, we booked a bunch of the
knew it.
rooms all at once. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and I'm going to make sure that. Thank you, Linda. Make sure that we get this agenda posted for Wednesday.
Yes, right.
Meeting posted. But
Actually,
we got 48 hours.
you gotta post it by 10 o'clock Monday morning.
No.
For that Wednesday.
I got it.
meeting.
I know.
You can probably, it's 4:30 though, you can probably get away with it at 2 o'clock Monday. I
Yeah.
just wouldn't-
I don't want to. I don't want to push it either. Believe me. Okay. With that in mind,
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn. Say, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. At
Now that
2:20.
we've adjourned, who's
2:20.
chairing the meeting on the 31st? John,
Can you be
John.
the chair?
you're gonna be up there in front? Are we gonna
We're
be
all
sitting
He's
there?
smiling underneath.
We are
Okay.
all up
The,
there.
this, welcome, thank you for being
Yep.
here, guy, is you.
That's me.
That's you.
And just to be-
Donnie
if-
diplomacy.
If Curtis can't control himself and wants to speak, or I do, or anybody does, how do you want to handle that? Should we all agree to be quiet or be free to interject? I'm just thinking, for example, when the select board has their community presentation at the Athenaeum, they usually assign tasks, but then after it's opened up, there's a pretty fair opportunity for anybody to
I'm
say,
happy for that.
I'd like to
yeah.
speak, I can't, or I have a comment I'd like to make, or respond to something. That's a little different than a pure public hearing. I just wanted, we all ought to be in agreement on what.
Well, I think we should go, if one of us wants to answer a question or something, and said, we can say, John, I'd like to respond, John, I'd like to respond. And that way we can sort of keep it.
And if some of us have a different point of view on the response.
And that's fine too.
then
I don't,
we'll be free
yeah,
to,
and I'm not
you know.
sure we want to get into a debate.
No.
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 No,
So
but I
but
think when we
responses
have a-
could be positive
Right.
to encourage.
But that's what's important about opinions or positions in response to comments or questions that get out there that someone has a different feeling about, then it's awfully one-sided, so you just gotta think. how-
So am I co-
Intake, I think the whole objective here is to do an intake.
Yeah.
As opposed to get into protracted dialogue with somebody.
Right,
who
but
has some-
but is the just so we have we're all on the same page about the game plan. Like I mean I'm there mainly to listen. I'm not I don't really I can't anticipate really saying anything other than is the idea that people come in, we can hand out the stuff to them and say we'll explain this in a second. Then you're going to kind of introduce everything and talk about who we are, why we're doing what we're doing, so forth. Then I'm happy to say here's the exercise as far as the dots go, and then following doing the dots for 5 minutes is like the feedback talk, ask questions, give feedback, and then folks can chime in or not chime in. Is that the idea?
Are we gonna do the dots
Yeah.
after the hearing or before?
No,
the-
on
Well,
the way in.
I was thinking the dots were after people come in, get a bit of an intro and what the whole
Yeah,
purpose of
people
our
have to be
committee is.
informed
Yeah.
about what they're actually dotting.
Dotting, yeah.
And so having a discussion about the different types of options, government options there are, I think is important. Because otherwise people will get this, and then are we gonna take 15 minutes for them to read it, or?
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at, so that if the idea is we explain enough about how the dots are supposed to work.
Correct.
And what's on the board, what the sentences or two sentences mean. John would have to go through that and say, board one is about a merit
Tucker.
system or, whatever.
Yeah.
And some kind of a comment about that and then do the dots and afterwards open it up as a
Yeah,
public
I think, I
input?
mean, that's what I was,
just
It could
don't want
also
them
be the
getting up and
reverse.
down.
I'm just not sure which is better.
Chaos, if they're gonna come in, sit down, we're gonna have a little dialogue, and then we're gonna tell them to get up again and then sit down again, that's not
No,
gonna
I
work.
think you're right. I think we should have the dialogue, right? And then at the end,
Let 'em
maybe
put the
they
dots
should
on the
put
way
the
out.
dots
Usually
on
that's
their
the way
way
it works.
out.
It's at
Yeah.
the end
could
of the
do-
session, after you've had a chance to get the information input that's
It
available.
also
Well-
assumes we're gonna have more than 3 people show up.
I'm just gonna,
Right.
well, I'm,
I don't
whatever,
know, I'm
whatever
just
work,
trying to
well,
sound-
I'm just thinking at the community foundation is my example. They do it at the beginning, and then, cause then what you see where the dots ended up tends to inform the questions and discussion that then happens after
But
that.
just to give you another
Yeah.
perspective, Malone and McBroom
Yeah,
has run the dots
right,
2 or 3 times.
okay,
They always do the dots, shouldn't say always, at the end. So after they've had their presentation and discussion on important issues and so on, then they say, now, we're gonna do the dots.
right.
And I think their point is that we've helped inform them about what they're up to.
Okay.
I don't know.
It doesn't
No.
matter, I'm
think
just
that's
thinking
good.
about the discussion part of things, I could see being a lot of, like, maybe some portion of it is about, like, whether we have a mayoral or whatever system, but I think there could be a ton of other topics that are talked about that we're not surveying their opinion on, so to speak.
Right, it may or may
Yeah.
not influence the opinion, though, I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me.
I'm not
Yeah.
trying to promote, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to understand
Well,
how you're gonna do it.
I think Linda's point is good because when you have cattle that you're herding, to only herd them in one direction
Yeah.
at a time is good.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there are going to be people that are anxious that they have to go sit down, but they didn't get to put their dot up. But
No, I just wanted to I
So-
just want to understand what we're doing before because we're not going to
No,
see each
no,
other until we show up.
right.
So maybe the thing to do then would be we hand out the dots after the discussion, so that,
We'll just put the dots in little baskets. in
well,
front of each other.
I'm just
We're not
saying
handing out
that we're going
anything.
into the, like, we can
Mhm.
explain, we're
Yeah.
going to do this exercise on your way out or what have you.
Well,
People may leave
and
earlier
to
than
your
the
thing
rest
with the
of us.
And the dots
CPC
are-
one that you do,
What's that?
with the one that you've done in the other
Yeah,
group,
yeah.
a lot of people are already informed about what the
Correct.
issues are, right?
Correct.
So,
Yep.
so they have that advantage
yeah.
at the beginning when they put their dots.
Yes, yes,
up,
yes, yes.
because they sort of come predetermined what they think is
Right.
most important.
If the idea is. that
Whereas
you
people will be
select one
coming
board,
not really
Yeah, and they just take their dot and put it over there.
informed like that.
Right. All right, does this make sense? We'll hand out the dots as people come in.
No,
They
just
can-
put 'em in a bucket.
No,
underneath them.
no, not a bucket, because you gotta give each person a limited number. You can't just take a bunch of dots. Anyway,
Just one
does it
color.
make sense to hand them out as people come in, as they're taking them, can briefly explain or whatever, if they're interested? People can do it before, they can do it when they leave, they can, whenever.
signing up.
If someone shows up 10 minutes early, they might do it then, who knows? But we're not gonna break to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Linda's point is each person is only to put one dot.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's my point.
So that's
yeah.
why she thought a bucket is fine, you don't have to
We
take
don't
it out,
need
because you're
colors.
just picking it up and
You
putting
pick it up and put it on the board.
It could be one color.
You don't need
Well-
colors.
Well, you don't really need colors unless you wanted to try to assess, like, are you a seasonal or a year-round resident
Oh,
Right.
the dot.
via the
Right.
dot
I'm
color.
a seasonal, I'm a red dot, it's
Yeah,
over here.
yeah.
Right.
And then the
I'm a
blue
year
dot's
round.
over
I'm a
here.
year round, I'm a
Yeah.
blue
Those
dot.
people,
The
'cause
blue
they
dot's
don't
over
vote.
here.
Well, but that is, it just,
No, but it's important to know where your information
I hear you.
is
Yeah.
coming from.
if the whole group was,
It doesn't have to be
Right.
10
Yeah.
It's
colors.
one demographic.
Exactly.
Out of 100, but it's one.
yeah.
Alright.
Because I'm imagining we could get a good number of seasonal residents who show up for this.
Maybe visitors.
We'll have a bus from the
Guys,
High Line.
guys,
Motion to adjourn?
we have to put this time down now, not the
Alright,
time before
now
we adjourn.
Now we're
Okay.
really adjourning.
We're really adjourning now.
at 2:30.